Like what we're doing here at Cube4two? Click the like and subscribe button to let us know. Also, Cube4two is now a TCG Player affiliate. Click the link in the show notes for all your shopping needs to help support the channel. Alright guys, let's get started. What's good, Cubers? It's your boy Matt. I'm back, and this week with a spicy new draft format for you guys to try. Almost a month ago, maybe more, I posted a picture on my Twitter account of drafting with my wife, and this was the picture, and this is the question that I got. What's this? And this is a draft format that I first heard about from the guys on Solely Singleton podcast, link to their stuff in the notes below. And so I thought I'd have my wife on with me this week and we talk to you guys about a new draft format called Minesweeper Draft.
So the Minesweeper Draft actually gets its name from an old school computer game called Minesweeper. And the way it works is you pick one random box and click on it. And then when you hit that box, all the other boxes touching it flip face up. And the goal is to reveal all of the good squares without hitting one of the bombs.
Exactly, and the way we cube draft with this is we lay out our cube face down like the Minesweeper field, but then we flip two cards up in the middle of this field, and that's where the draft begins. You can pick the card on the left or the card on the right, and as you pick them, the rest of the field becomes revealed. So, to go ahead and help shortcut this for you, we're going to do some fast math to help you set up your Minesweeper draft without having to stand around and do some math calculations. So, first, you want to have 45 cards times the number of players that are drafting. So if you have 2 players, you have 90 cards and so on. So that's step 1. 2 players will have 90 cards. That means you lay them out in 9 rows of 10. 4 players will have 180 cards that you will lay out in 15 rows of 12. 6 players will have 270 cards that you'll lay out in 15 rows of 18. And 8 players will use 360 cards that you will lay out in 18 rows of 20. I think you can probably see one of the disadvantages of this draft already.
It's a ton of table space.
Yeah, you really need a big table if you're going to support this draft, but it is still a lot of fun. So let's show you how it works. What we're going to do is we're going to deal out the cards, and then we're going to flip up 2 cards in the middle. Now, obviously, this is small because your computer screen, your TV set is only so big, as is mine. Imagine this is an entire table of this setup. And I'm going to give the first pick to my wife, so go ahead. What would you like?
I'm going to take Lightning Bolt, and then I'll flip up the 3 cards that were touching it.
This makes it my turn, and I can choose either the Swords to Plowshares or any of the 3 new revealed cards. Now, for simplicity's sake and the size of our television screens, I'm going to go ahead and pick Swords to Plowshares. Then I'm going to flip up the 3 cards that are touching it. And then my wife now has choice of any of these 6 cards.
Oh, I'll take the Savannah. And then when I take it, I'll flip the card beside it.
And this is the way the draft proceeds, choosing a card and revealing any cards that are vertically and horizontally next to it until all the cards have been drafted off the table. And there are a lot of awesome pros and cons to drafting this way. One of the biggest pros for me is this is a really unique way to draft, and it's not a way that people draft every day. I also really love that it gives us focused decks. Because you're able to draft exactly what you want or exactly what's available every single time, the drafters end up with decks that are not jank, that are far better than any sealed deck they could hope to put together. I also really love the cutting/hate drafting that happens at the table. Remember, everyone knows what deck everyone else is drafting because we saw you draft the cards. For example, we saw you take Kiki Jiki last pick. Now that Pestermite is face up on the table, we have to make a real decision about whether we let that card get around to you or not. And the other thing I really love about this format as a cube curator is you can see which cards your drafters perceive as weak cards inside your cube. You can see what drafters value for their decks and which cards they're willing to let just sit around on the table. Still, there's a lot of cons to this format as well.
I think this was the longest draft format that we have tried before. Instead of it taking minutes, it really took more, close to hours, and it was just the two of us trying to draft. And then again, another con was that it required a lot of space. We spread up the draft as 2 players, and it took up our entire dining room table. And of course, I enjoyed the idea of seeing how each other is drafting, but you have to understand that when you are doing the Minesweeper draft, there's no secrets on the table. If you're paying attention to the other players at the table, you know exactly what deck they're in and what they're building. So when it's time for you to go head to head during a game, you know how to play around the deck that they've built. And all of these cons really come to a head when you have more than 2 people drafting. A 6 to 8 man pod is just really scary. The amount of time it would take, the amount of space it would require, and the fact that you've got 6 to 8 people that know exactly what people have drafted and the decks that they're building.
So I have a question for you, Miss Con Girl. Despite all these cons, or regarding all of these cons, how did you feel about the Minesweeper draft when we tried it?
So actually, I really enjoyed the experience. It's not the kind of draft I would want to do all the time, but I really enjoyed seeing all the cards on the table all face up at the same time. I think it helped me realize how I draft and how I prioritize cards myself, but also it gave us some interesting conversations from the curator side of the cube to decide which cards are actually valuable and which ones are not so much.
I will second this is not the way I want to draft every week, but it is a really, really nice break if you've got the time from your normal cube draft. I promise you've never done anything like it, and it is a truly unique draft experience that you won't get anywhere outside of your extremely large dining room table. Well, that's going to do it for today, Cubers. Please feel free to leave us some comments in the comments below on other draft formats you might like to hear about or might like us to try, or are these the kind of videos that you're interested in? Be sure to catch us on Twitter at cubefortwo, like, subscribe, do all the things, and hey, do you want to do the sign off?
Until next time, shuffle up and keep cubing, our friends.